Asteria says, "Well, Spartans, our time has come. Time to start the proceeding, and Apella can't wait any longer. Let's go."
Achilles says, "Hark, Socrates, Dionysus. I am not afraid of an army of lions led by a sheep. I am afraid of an army of sheep led by a lion."
Apella says, "Adine Odgar is at the gate." Asteria says. Once again she quickly walks toward her throne and stops in front of it. "Why, the grace of the gods and the strength of Sparta, I welcome you all. Be seated that we may proceed." By asterisk.
Mineya chooses a place to sit.
Asteria says, "As the eagle leaves its nest to soar toward new heights, so Queen Aurora has left Sparta to elevate our name among other nations. I shall be her voice in this assembly." Asteria focuses for a moment before delivering her opening speech. Noble citizens of Sparta, revered members of the Apella. We meet in the month of the harvest, when the earth shows us the truth that every warrior must learn. You reap only what you sow. The farmer who worked his field in spring now fills his granaries. The one who neglected his land now goes hungry. Nature does not forgive laziness, and neither does battle. October is the season of reckoning. The grapes do not lie about the quality of the vine. The grain does not disguise whether the soil was rich or poor. Everything is revealed in the harvest. So too with Sparta. Our strength in winter will depend on what we store in autumn. Not merely grain and oil, but discipline, training, and unity. These are the provisions no enemy can steal from us. This is the lesson of October. Prepare in times of plenty for times of scarcity. Train in peace for the demands of war. Build in calm what will shelter you in the storm. Apella says, "You won't touch these gates, Alelangel Sal resident, for the God's grace hasn't been bestowed upon you." Asteria says, "Tonight, let us reap the fruits of our recent labors and plant seeds for the future. Let us be farmers of virtue, cultivators of strength, and harvesters of honor." Apella says, "Adine Odgar is at the gate." Asteria says, "May the gods bless this assembly and may our decisions bear fruit for generations to come." Sparta blessed by the gods to protect us forever. Haro. Priestess says, "Are you worshipping?"
Alelangel Soul says, Aro. Aro.
Asteria says, "Sparta blessed by the gods to protect us forever." Haro.
Mineya says, Aro. Aro.
Asteria says, after opening speech, "With these words I declare the session open. May the gods grant us strength and courage in battle." Asteria takes a quick glance to the counselor as she makes her way through the gate and addresses her a nod of greeting. Asteria takes back her seat, preparing for her next endeavor. Asteria opens wide her eyes in surprise and bows at once, noticing the queen coming out from the hidden passage. Herida salutes. Queen says. The hidden doors of Apella basements open and the queen enter building. Queen salutes.
Mineya says, Here to the queen.
Asteria says, Here Queen, it is a joy for the eyes to see you in our sacred assembly. I took the liberty to open the proceedings in your absence. Queen says, Been late today, Ambassador. Am glad you opened the meeting.
Alelangel soul nods respectfully to the queen incoming. The Apella salutes my queen.
Asteria says, An opening speech has just been delivered. I will leave the meeting to your capable hands now. Queen says, coughs hysterically and wipes her nose. All right then. I call upon Hieros to perform Apella opening prayers. Asteria says, Herida, salutes. Queen salutes. Priestess shouts, Hestia, you who tend the holy house of the Lord Apollo, the far shooter at goodly Pytho, with soft oil dripping ever from your locks, come now into this house, come, having one mind with Zeus the all-wise, draw near, and withal bestow grace upon my song. We offer you a libation of sweet honeyed wine. Hail Almighty Zeus the Thunderer, hail all the gods of Olympus. We offer you a libation of sweet honeyed wine. Priestess shouts, may the gods bless all in attendance of these prayers.
Socrates pours libations of honey-sweet wine from his chalice for the gods. To Earth.
Priestess says, are you discussing something?
Socrates says, Divine Earth, mother of men and of the blessed gods, you nourish all, you give all, you bring all to fruition and you destroy all. When the season is fair you are heavy with fruit and growing blossoms, and, O multiformed maiden, you are the seat of the immortal cosmos, and in the pains of labor you bring forth fruits of all kinds. Eternal, reverend, deep-bosomed, and blessed, you delight in the sweet breath of grass, O goddess bedecked with flowers. Yours is the joy of the rain, and round you the intricate realm stars revolves in endless and awesome flow. But, O blessed goddess, may you multiply the gladsome fruits, and together with the beautiful seasons, grant me favor. Socrates pours more libations of honey-sweet wine from his chalice for the gods. Socrates salutes.
Queen salutes. Thank you for your prayers, Hieros and Lammy. Looks trough the mini SC rolls on her lap. I call upon our counselor to provide her reports.
Alelangel Soul stands up and goes in front the queen.
Queen says, please go on.
Alelangel Soul opens her scroll and bows respectfully, then start to read. This Sunday we had our bard gathering. In the heart of the Empire of Sparta, a poetry reading took place that, although not very crowded, left a deep impression on those of us fortunate enough to attend. This serene and welcoming atmosphere invited us to immerse ourselves in the words and be carried away by the power of the verses. The simplicity of the gathering allowed poetry to feel close, alive, capable of transcending silence and filling the space with its timeless energy. Alelangel Soul keeps reading. We were honored by the participation of two readers who, with firm and passionate voices, guided us through a journey across the finest works of world poetry. From the echoes of classical poets to the resonances of contemporary authors, each reading opened a doorway to different emotions and ways of understanding life. The carefully chosen verses transported the audience to various corners of the human soul, evoking love, nostalgia, hope, and rebellion.
Queen says, asterisk ebudes asterisk. Asteria claps hands.
Mineya claps hands. Alelangel Soul finished her reading with our 5 guests. The evening was a true feast for the spirit. Amid attentive gazes and respectful silences, we shared the beauty of poetic language and celebrated the power of words as a bond between cultures and generations. We thanks eternally to our host Saber that hosted the Bard gathering in this opportunity, and says while close her scroll we invite all Spartans to participate our next Bard gathering this next Sunday. Alelangel Soul opens another scroll and waits for our queen. We also had our combat training. Can I keep going, my queen?
Queen says, yes, dear.
Alelangel Soul starts reading in the vast training arena of Sparta, beneath the golden dawn. Counsellor Alelangel led a grueling and demanding session with the participation of Ambassador Asteria, Hieros Socrates, and our queen Aurora. The air vibrated with the intensity of effort and discipline as weapons clashed and voices of command echoed among the marble columns. It was not merely a physical exercise but a demonstration of endurance, strategy, and unity, a lesson in strength that transcended the body to forge the spirit. Alelangel keeps reading and describing Queen Aurora, a symbol of leadership and wisdom, was the motivation to keep showing endurance and strength. At her side, Ambassador Asteria displayed a skill worthy of her title, blending grace and precision in every movement. The Hieros Socrates, guardian of knowledge and master of ancient arts, showed that he is also a master with swords in his hands. And Counsellor Alelangel, firm and observant, guided and balanced the intensity of the training, guiding her companions toward the perfection of fighting.
Queen says, thank you for those nice words, Counselor. Asteria smiles.
Alelangel Soul keeps reading. By the end of the day, sweat glistened on their faces, but so did pride. In that arena, not only strength had been forged, but also loyalty and trust among those who would serve the empire. The echo of their footsteps as they departed left behind the promise of a stronger future, forged in discipline, respect, and brotherhood. In Sparta, even training was an act of greatness. We thanks all participants of our training day and we invite all sons and daughters of Sparta to participate on the next Sunday training session.
Queen says, hail Sparta! Hail Sparta! Hurroo! Hurroo! Asteria says, Sparta blessed by the gods to protect us forever. Haro! Priestess says, are you discussing something? Queen says, hail Sparta! Hail Sparta! Hurroo! Hurroo!
Mineya says, Aro. Aro. Alelangel close her scroll while says making a nod of all presents it's what your presence my queen and the participation of all Spartan inspires me to.
Queen says, thank you for your reports, Counselor. Please be seated. Queen salutes.
Alelangel bows respectfully and says always a pleasure to serve you. Eurede. Salutes. Mineya was captivated by how well our counselor speaks.
Queen says, wipes out her nose loud trying to remain pose. I didn't had the opportunity to listen to a harp player. Is there any that wishes to entertain us?
Alelangel Soul raises her hand. I can if you led me to my queen.
Queen says, yes please. Asteria notes with satisfaction how well received the counselor's reports have been, detailed and written with great care.
Alelangel Soul goes to the zither and remembers a delighted melody to play. Alelangel Soul starts to play a delighted melody to enjoy all presents.
Queen says, beautiful. Asteria closes her eyes and savors the sweet notes that fill the air. Queen says, asterisk evaluates asterisk. Asteria claps hands.
Mineya claps hands enchanted by the beautiful melody. Alelangel Soul pass her fingers delicately to the strings and be careful to play the most beautiful song.
Queen says, "Thank you for the beautiful music, Counsellor." Asterisk applause asterisk. You may now return to your seat. Asteria claps hands.
Alelangel Soul stands up and bows respectfully. Always a pleasure to serve you. Eurede. Salutes.
Queen salutes. As Counsellor walks to sit at her throne, she turns her face to Asteria. "I now summon Ambassador of Sparta, who will inform us about management and army matters." Asteria nods slightly and rises slowly from her seat. Herida. salutes. Queen salutes. Asteria says, Your Majesty, honored Ephors, fellow Spartans.
Mineya smiles.
Asteria says, I stand before you tonight to deliver my report on the affairs entrusted to my office. With your permission, I will speak first about population movements. Queen says, permission given. Asteria nods and continues. I must report that during this past period, no new foreigners have sought entry to our sacred city. Our borders remain secure, and no petitions for residency or citizenship have been presented to the embassy. The population of Sparta remains stable, with our citizen body unchanged by external additions. Queen says, asterisk obeys asterisk. Priestess says, are you discussing something? Asteria pauses, reaching into her leather satchel and withdrawing a sealed scroll. My queen, it is now time to address matters concerning relations with other kingdoms. Queen says, nods. Asteria slowly unrolls the scroll, bringing it in front of her face. Your Majesty, I come before you tonight with a matter of utmost gravity and importance. Following your cunning observations regarding the initial draft, I have spent these past days rewriting the formal declaration of war against Athens, incorporating every concern and refinement you expressed. Asteria holds the scroll with both hands, presenting it reverently. Queen says, ah, that. Read it, sis. Asteria nods. Thank you, my queen. I will now read it aloud to you and to this honorable assembly. Priestess says, are you discussing something? Asteria says, from the Queen of Sparta to the people of Athens. In the name of the immortal gods and according to the laws of honor and steel. To the Athenians who believe themselves masters of the sea and the land, Queen Aurora declares the following. Queen says, raises her palms to correct Asteria. Asteria says, yes? Queen says, please change the top from the Queen Aurora of Sparta to General Tirana of Athens. Asteria nods. Or would you prefer Arxistrategos? Queen says, Arxistrategos would be more appropriate. Asteria hints at a smile. I would agree with you, my queen, so allow me to correct it. So let the new beginning be, from the Queen of Sparta to Arxistrategos Tirana of Athens. Queen says, all right. Asteria says, and what I said earlier will stay as it is. Queen says, yes. Let me read whole, we will then see. Priestess says, are you discussing something? Queen says, I let you read asterisk. Asteria says, I will resume from the beginning, O Queen, for better clarity. She clears her throat and continues. Declaration of war. From the Queen of Sparta to Arxistrategos Tirana of Athens. In the name of the immortal gods and according to the laws of honor and steel. To the Athenians who believe themselves masters of the sea and the land, Queen Aurora declares the following. For countless generations, the sacred island of the tides has belonged to the Spartan people by right of conquest, by the will of the gods, and by inheritance from our fathers. On this blessed land stands my palace, where the bones of our kings rest and where our mothers have given birth to heroes for centuries. You Athenians, not satisfied with your dominions and filled with pride at the growth of your polis, have dared to desecrate our soil. You have sent your triremes against what is most dear to us, believing that you can steal from us what the gods themselves entrusted to our care. Priestess says, "Are you worshipping?" Asteria says, "Know this, sons of Theseus. As iron is tempered in fire, so Sparta is tempered in war. We have already responded to your outrage. The Acropolis of Athens still burns with our torches, and this is only the beginning." We do not seek your gold, we do not crave your harbors. We ask only for what is ours by divine right and the strength of our arms. The tides remains and will remain Spartan as long as there are men willing to die for it. The gods bear witness. Every Spartan will shed his blood before yielding an inch of that blessed land. Let weapons speak now, for words are finished. Ambassador Asteria.
Πρέσβυρα παντεξούσιος το βασιλείου ταυσίγμα Σπάρτης, διπρόσωπος τάφνη βασιλέων.
Mineya listens attentively to the ambassador's words.
Queen says, Asteria looks up and meets the queen's gaze, seeking a sign of approval or disapproval. Queen says, "You may leave the scroll in my hands, Asteria. I will sign it after I read it on my own." But overall it's declaration of war and I approve it. Asteria nods and takes a few steps toward the throne, rolling up the scroll and handing it to the queen. Queen says, "Until next Apella then, and we have to send this declaration to Athens." Priestess says, "Are you discussing something?" Queen says, grabs the scroll carefully and smiles. It's what our heart desires.
Va.
Asteria says, "If this declaration is to your liking, then all that remains is for me to find someone to lead our delegation and read it aloud in a clear voice to the Athenians. As your majesty will recall, I am forbidden to set foot in Athens," she says, unable to hide a certain disappointment in her tone of voice. Queen says, "Well, sister, you traveled to Athens with Ephor, Mineya and one regime hoplites. However, not now. This declaration is not yet signed by me."
Mineya nods.
Queen says it have to wait until next Apella. Asteria looks at the queen with a reassured smile. "I thank you, O queen, for changing your decision. I have never stopped believing in the truth of my vision, and I am still convinced that the tides will return to our hands. Whether by force of arms or by other means, the owl will fly away from those places," she says with deep conviction. Queen says, "However, official diplomatic mission, yet these are Athens. You need to be careful. Asteria says, I am not afraid, my queen. I feel this is the will of the gods. Priestess says, are you worshipping?
Mineya has to polish and sharpen the sword, it seems.
Priestess says, are you talking about combat? Queen says, nods. Asteria says, it is the fate of those who have the gift of seeing beyond. Cassandra suffered the same fate. No one believed her, but time proved her words to be true, and I hope the same will happen with mine. Queen says, well, sister, tell me what you are seeing beyond. Priestess says, are you discussing something? Asteria drifts off for a few moments, remembering the dream she had that night. As I told you, O Queen, I saw in a dream an owl taking flight from the roof of your palace in the tides. Queen says, ah. Now I remember, sister. Well, the owls. Who care about them? Asteria says, I didn't need to consult seers to determine its meaning. To me, it seems a clear sign that Athens' rule is destined to end and the island will return to us. The owl, symbol of their city, takes flight and disappears into the sky, never to return. Queen says, winks. Nods at the words of ambassador. Asteria says, I feel it is a good omen, O Queen. I don't know by which means, but I feel that what is rightfully ours will be back in our hands.
Mineya murmurs that owls are stealthy and nocturnal hunters, so beware of them.
Queen says, nods. Well, sister, this the purpose of war. Recovering our island. However, I thank you for your reports. Asteria says, we know that the Athenians cannot be trusted, but if it is the will of the gods that the island should return to us, then there is little they can do to prevent it. Queen says, "I'm sure gods are with us." Asteria says, "Let the time tell us what is in store for us, O Queen, while we prepare our armies and fleets for this right war, in the name of our ancestors." That is all I can say for this night. Queen says, "Thank you, Ambassador, for your reports. Please be seated." Queen salutes. Asteria says, "Herida," salutes. Queen says, "What lies ahead?" She whispers to herself. Should there be anyone here today with a yearning to speak in this gathered Apella, we invite you to share your thoughts now. Citizens, your opinions and concerns are not just welcomed but cherished. Please step forward if you wish to share your thoughts with us.
Mineya raises her hand.
Asteria says, "Our scribes should not lose track of our important words, my queen." Priestess says, "Are you talking about combat?" Queen says, "Please go on, sweetie."
Mineya asks permission to say a few words.
Priestess says, "Are you discussing something?" Queen says, "Stand up and speak for the Apella."
Mineya stands up. Eurede. Salutes.
Queen salutes.
Mineya smiles. Mineya today is only physically present and would like to say something.
Queen says, nods.
Mineya is glad to be back after her long absence. She nods her head in greeting. Mineya adds that Her Gracious Majesty has changed her name to a beautiful, luminous sunrise. She looks up and smiles at her.
Queen says, "We are glad to have you back with us. I hope your voyages were successful."
Mineya missed you all and was looking forward to getting back to work.
Queen says, "Oh, thank you. God's bless my new name. I liked it too. Smiley face."
Mineya says, today she only came to the Apella to see you all again, and next week she will come with her reports and her work done, but today she is still on cloud 9 from her return. Mineya has nothing else to say. Mineya thanks you for the warm welcome.
Queen says, "I hope you will tell us some nice stories from your travels. Next time."
Mineya says, next time, smiles.
Queen salutes.
Mineya says, Eurede. Salutes. Mineya retires to her seat.
Queen says, "At the conclusion of today's Apella meeting, I shall recite words that were spoken in days past." When the storm within you rises, be like Poseidon, fearsome, yes, but never without direction. Taking a moment to gather her thoughts, she turns her gaze towards Hieros. I kindly ask Hieros Socrates to offer the closing prayers for this Apella.
Socrates pours libations of honey-sweet wine from his chalice for the gods. To Poseidon. Hearken, dark-maned Poseidon, holder of the earth, equestrian, carved in bronze is the trident in your hand, and you dwell in the foundations of the full-bosomed sea. Deep-roaring ruler of the sea and shaker of the earth, your blossoms are waves, O gracious one, as you urge horses and chariot on, rushing on the sea and splashing through the rippling brine. To your lot fell the third portion, the unfathomable sea, and you delight in waves and in their wild dwellers, O spirit of the deep. Save the foundations of the earth and ships moving at full tilt, and bring peace, health, and blameless prosperity. Socrates pours libations of honey-sweet wine from his chalice for the gods. I now call on Priestess Lamy to say closing Apella prayers.
Priestess says, "Are you discussing something?" I will sing of Zeus, chiefest among the gods and greatest, all-seeing, the Lord of all, the fulfiller who whispers words of wisdom to Themis as she sits leaning towards him. Be gracious, all-seeing son of Kronos, most excellent and great. We offer you a libation of sweet honeyed wine. May Zeus and the gods bless this city, its king, its princess regent, its royals, and all of its citizens. We offer you a libation of sweet honeyed wine. May the gods bless all who attended these prayers.
Socrates pours final libations of honey-sweet wine from his chalice for the gods. Socrates salutes.
Queen says, "Thanks for prayers, Hieros and Lambes. I appreciate everyone who joined us in today's Apella." Priestess says, "Are you worshipping?" Queen salutes. Also, some reports of events were not presented today, but Ephor Mineya will catch up and present them on next Apella meeting. Priestess says, "Are you discussing something?"
Mineya will do it, smiles.
Queen says, "Wonderful, and thank you Ambassador Asteria for taking notes of the meeting." Priestess says, "Are you discussing something?" Asteria says, "Most welcome my queen." Queen says, "We may now conclude this Apella. I wish you all good night," she announces, rising from her throne. She waves at all present, then proceeds behind her throne, vanishing in the hidden Apella gates. Queen salutes.
Mineya wishes good night to our queen.
Asteria says, "Herida," salutes.
Mineya says, "Sweet dreams."
Asteria says, "May gods grant each of you a peaceful night." Priestess says, "Are you worshipping?" Apella says, "Adine Odgar is at the gate." Asteria says, "Good night, Socrates."
Socrates says, "Good night, Asteria."
Mineya will sleep on a bench here tonight?
Apella says, "You won't touch these gates, Comedy resident, for the god's grace hasn't been bestowed upon you." Socrates Dionysus is at the gate.
Socrates says, "Good night, Mineya."
Mineya says, "Good night, Socrates."
Apella says, Aidin Odgar is at the gate.
Mineya says, "See you next time."
Priestess says, Are you discussing something?
Socrates salutes.
Mineya says, "Eurede." Salutes.